So, surely all of you have seen the movie Slumdog Millionaire, or at least heard about it. And it's a story of a boy from the slums who's lifted out of poverty by winning a game show. You know, he answers 15 questions correctly. But what's the probability of lifting 135 million children out of poverty in India who are illiterate with that strategy? And similar numbers in other parts of the world. So fortunately, there is an organization called Pratham, and that vastly increases this probability. And its main idea is that in order to solve the illiteracy problem, you also need to solve concurrently a socio-economic problem. So what they do is to reach out particularly to women in the slums, and the younger women typically are sitting around waiting to get married and produce more children who are illiterate. So they reach out to them, and the smarter ones, they train them to become teachers. And this lifts their social status in the society. And also because they pay them, it also financially empowers them so that they can delay childbearing by several years. But most importantly, they are able to convince the parents of the children to invest in education, because the parents, even though they recognize the value of education, they think it's a luxury they can't afford. They would prefer their children to work with them because they are preoccupied with survival, to eat, figure out how to eat that evening. So this approach of Pratham has worked rather well. And over the past 16 years, they claim to have educated about 1 million children. So we wanted to get an intuitive feel for how well this idea works in practice. It's quite intriguing. So in the summer of 2006, my older son Chetan and we traveled to India, and we spent 1 month in the slums. We didn't sleep there, but we visited every day the slums, and our goal was to get an intuitive feel for who these kids were, who their teachers were, who their parents, friends, and what were the living conditions, and try to figure out, for ourselves how well this idea was working. So this is a world that is actually rather disconnected from the mainstream of India. The members of this community from the slums, they come into our houses and they do, they cook and clean, but there isn't any reverse path. Middle and upper class Indians do not ever go into the slums. So it was an interesting experience for me as well as my son, and let me share with you how this world unfolded in front of our eyes. So this is a slum called Zakhira. Zakhira is actually an Urdu word that means mineral, and it'll become clear exactly why that's the case. So to enter this Zakhira, you have to cross railroad tracks, and on which locomotives like this ply, and children sometimes get killed crossing the tracks, and we were told that some parents are reluctant to complain to the police about this because they may themselves be arrested for negligence. So Zakhira has these mineral pits, and there are people there. They mine these pits and they sell the minerals for small amounts of money, and they want their children to work alongside them, so they're just hanging around. There's some kids hanging around, and children being children, they also play hockey. So there is no running water in Zakhira, as you might expect. Water has to be filled in canisters every day from one faucet, and then brought to each home. But there is, of course, no drainage either. So the water collects there and causes all sorts of infestations. So in a slum like this one, not in Zakhira, but in another slum that we visited, we met a young lady called Gul Bagavli, and she was one of 9 children who lives with her parents and great-grandfather in a 2-room accommodation. And in order to supplement their family income, she makes bangles like this. She sticks colored stones onto bangles and then sells them. And she also helps her mother to make sew quilts, and they sell for 100 rupees each. 100 rupees today's exchange rate is about $2. So the high point of our visit was meeting her great-grandfather. He was 105 years old in 2006. Hopefully he's still alive. But he was in mentally very alert and in good spirits, and he recited Urdu couplets to us. And we asked him what was the secret of his long life. So he said he fed on good character. So, but in spite of his wisdom and intellect, he didn't really care much for education of children. So it took a lady called Zinat. She was a Pratham teacher. She's in the middle, and she's flanked by Gul Bakavli on the left, and another friend of hers called Asma on the right. And so she convinced the parents of Gul Bakavli that, okay, look, why don't you try it out, send her to school, and I'll make sure that she'll have enough time to work with you and supplement your income. So they agreed. But it worked out so well that 8 of the 9 children, they went to school. And actually, I called up my friends in Pratham last week, and they assured me that she and her friend Asma are still in school. They are in 11th grade right now. So they seem to have escaped, or nearly escaped, the poverty, the cycle of, the downward spiral of poverty and illiteracy. So this might be a class that Zenat might organize in the slums themselves. It's all very indigenous. They don't build buildings, new buildings. They figure out wherever there is space, they hold the classes. So this one is outside. And when the children reach a certain level of competence, then they are transferred to public schools that are operated by the city of Delhi. But even those schools are quite crowded. This one has 70 children in it. And the teacher there said that the English curriculum is so advanced for these students that most of them fail. And if they are to be held back, then that would further exacerbate the overcrowding situation. So, under these very challenging circumstances, the teachers work really hard, and in spite of the oppressive Delhi heat, they maintain good humor, and the things that they accomplish are quite amazing. So one was a flash of brilliance that we saw. You heard this Aesop's fable about a crow flying on a hot summer's day, and he notices a jug of water in the ground. So when he swoops down, he notices that the level of the water is too low, so he can't dip his beak into it. So he takes pebbles from the ground and he drops them one by one till the water level rises up and he's able to dip his beak. Well, there was a student in the class, he said, no, that is so 20th century, what happened was that the crow took a straw and just drank the water. There was a poster exactly like this on the walls of one of the schools. We were quite amazed. So, the teachers also create a sense of enchantment with learning, and this is the boy who is listening to a story being told by his teacher. He seems to be having an out-of-body experience here. So, they make their moms proud of the children's accomplishment. We were told that this boy, when he first went home and he was able to write his name on a sheet of paper, for the first time, his mom was so overjoyed, she filled his face with kisses. So another mom proud of her son, and another mom proud of her children. But I guess the most important thing that they accomplish is to bring a smile to a young lady like this one. So that's a glimpse of our experience, and thanks to Chitra Raghavan, Bharat Patni, Charan, Rekha, Taslim Bano, and Zenat for arranging for our trip and making it quite a memorable one. Thank you.